Greetings. It's been a while. Um, Not so heavy on the crafting videos lately. Just have a lot on my mind. I have a lot of words that need to get out. Yes, my hair is lighter. I am transitioning to be colored like a very deep blue. My hairstylist suggests that you'd have to get platinum blonde. So I'm doing it in stages so I don't fry the crap out of my hair. So I know it looks like a wig. It feels like a wig, like, you know what I mean? Like I can do that with my scalp. It looks funny. But anyways, video today. I just have so much on my mind lately. I feel, I guess, overwhelmed in a sense. And I don't know if anybody saw that, probably did see on the news about the family that are suing their 30-year-old son to get the fuck out of their house because he's just mooching at this point. I don't know. And then I have a brother that he graduated from trade school as a welder and is having a very hard time finding just like a set employment. So he's learning, I guess, the pros and cons of that industry. So I mean, a lot of this goes back, and I've had this on my mind too as a topic, and I wasn't really sure when I would film this video, but I feel that with all this thoughts in my head and everything that's been going on in the news, and then talk with my brother the other day, that I would finally make this video. And this video is about, you know, being a grownish person in your 30s or even late 20s. I'll even say, you know, go as far as to say that. And thrown in there is I did not have a good college experience. Now, there are a lot of people that feel like me. I was not brought up this way by any means, so I feel like I'm a complete failure to my mother, even though she loves me. Yeah, I feel like a failure. I had great potential all my life in school. I was like I didn't really try. So I was like an A-B student, even though I didn't really try. There was one time I really tried because she said she would buy me Ozzy Osbourne tickets. So I got straight A's that 6 weeks or whatever. But other than that, I really didn't try, and I always was an A-B student. And I was pretty articulate with my words, and I've always been able to I've always been a very good reader and all this other stuff. So I had promise. My mother always programmed into my head that I would go to college one day and I'd have a really good job and blah 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 blah. So I always had this, I guess you could say, brainwashing, and I don't really want to say that that's a bad thing. I mean, it's great to push your kids to go to college to get a better education and to better themselves and just to become more worldly and all that other stuff. But you know, I always thought that too. You know, when I was in kindergarten, I remember the teacher, she had a pad on an easel, and she was asking everyone in the class, what would you like to be when you grow up? Lots of little girls were like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. Lots of boys were like, I want to be a policeman or a fireman. And I was the kid that was like, I want to be an archaeologist. I want to dig up dinosaur bones. I'm fucking 5 years old saying this, right? So I guess in a way I had this confidence, this just like, I was so sure I was going to become something, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people think that of themselves, like, you know, you're going through school, you're always told you can be whatever you want to be, you can do whatever you want to do. But I mean, when you become an adult, things change, and sometimes those aspirations, you cannot fulfill them. So I mean, fast forward high school, I'm thinking of going to college out of state. I wanted to go to UTSA in San Antonio because I didn't want to stay in El Paso. I wanted to move out. I wanted to get away from my mother because I hated midnight curfews. And I just wanted to be like an adult and my own person, you know what I mean? Like take care of myself and not have to have anyone rely on me, and vice versa. So anyways, I ended up staying here because I met someone who would later become my future husband. So I stayed here and I went to university, and you know, I was feeling good and everything, and my major at the time was biology because I always wanted to be a pharmaceutical rep, which I know sounds totally nerdy and what the fuck, but I had heard that they make really good money. It was in marketing, which I found somewhat interesting, but mainly I could do it with a biology degree. And I wanted to be a dentist too, so like I could go both ways, you know what I mean? So I wanted to do that. I will say a lot of people talk about, and also by the time I started college, shortly towards inwards of college at like 19 and a half, 20, I got pregnant and had my son. I have a pregnancy video, like the last video or 2 videos back that I talked about this. And so shortly into, going through college, I got pregnant. So I already had a family. It's a little bit different, I guess, when you have a family, obviously, and you go to college. I never, ever was invited to parties. I didn't know anybody that went to parties. I didn't know anybody in sorority or fraternities. I just kind of went to school and I came back, went to work or came home or whatever, you know what I mean? But I mean, yeah, I was so sure of myself. I was like, this is so cool. I'm going to become an adult. I'm going to work and, I started taking my math classes and all the other classes that were required of me. And I went 6 years straight. I never took a break. Even after I had my son, I still took, because I had him in the summer in June, and I still took a summer class like that. That semester, I'm sorry, not summer. That semester I took Saturday school. Like I had one class at least, and I still took a Saturday school math class at a local community college. So I still went. I never really stopped, and I went for 6 years straight. Most people, when you go to school for 6 years straight, you come out with a master's degree. I didn't. I don't even have an associate's yet. I'm that pathetic. But let me explain why. And I feel this as like a 32-year-old. I have a direction, but I'm always told like it's such a dream. Like it's something like a child has aspirations of, oh, you want to make clothes and oh, you want to do this. That's not realistic, And people always tell me, get a real job. And it's like, well, I've tried to get real jobs and the real jobs that I get, they really don't pay much. And I have tried a lot to get like a government or a city job. And I have gotten as far as maybe being the last time I had not an interview, but I took a test to be a sheriff detention trainee. Like what the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, and, I've applied really much to any job that I can be qualified for. Border Patrol, I did make it. I talk about that. I didn't get in with the deputy training. My math score was not high enough. I got like a 74, which was like still passing, but they only choose like the top 10 grades out of, whatever, however many people were in that conference room when we took the test. So I didn't get really far into that. But, back to just saying you're being like a grownish 30-year-old, there's a lot of 30-year-olds and people that come out, 21, 22-year-olds, they come out and they get a degree and they do everything right. And I kind of did everything backwards in my life. So going to school 6 years straight, at one point towards the end, my nest egg of money for school was depleting, you know what I mean? Going to university for 6 years, yeah, you're gonna blow a shit ton of money. And the last year, my 6th year, I was like, if I do not pass all my classes this semester, I am officially done with college and I'm never ever coming back. And that's when I started my little fashion design business, which, it's gotten me here and there for like, what have I been doing this for like 7-8 years? It's gotten me here and there, whatever. But I'm more of a housewife these days, and I've come to terms with it. I've become okay with it. But is it something that I originally aspired to set out to do as an adult? No. So like going back to my college experience, yeah, so I never, in all these movies, they talk about, oh, we're going to have a crazy party and college years are going to be the best time of your life. Well, it wasn't. College was very hard for me. Even I felt when I tried my best to study in study groups by myself, just with another person or in big groups of people, I always saw that the fruits of my labor from doing that was very low. Like it didn't produce much. I remember being in a study group for a science class with, I think it was 3 other girls, very nice girls, and we met up at Starbucks and we would study really hard for our exams. And we would study and we would get back together, and then when we got our exam grades back, they'd be like, oh yeah, I got an 80 something, and I'd be like, I got a 71. Like I was always such a poor performer, regardless of how hard I studied. And I figure now, if I wanted to excel at all, I would have to abandon my family and live at college, like live, breathe, eat, drink, my assignments. I think that's the only way that a person like me could excel at all. I mean, just get by. Um, I had some bad experiences with some professors, not sexual harassment or anything, but just they were just assholes. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever gone to college, but there are some professors that they really don't want to teach you at all. Like they could fucking care less. They're just there to get their grants so that way they can do their research and do their work or whatever. I remember I took this one chemistry class, I think it was like Chem 1 twice. And the first year I had this male professor. And with some assignments, I didn't understand some of the stuff. And I remember I would try and catch him after class. And I'd be like, hey, doctor, I won't say his full name. I don't even remember his name. No, I don't. I'll just call him Dr. N. That's as far as I can remember what his freaking name was. Like, hey, Dr. N. I'd see him in the hallway. I was like, Dr. N, because I wanted to ask him if when he was free, whatever time he was free, so that way I could come in and maybe ask him a question real quick just to clear something up so I could do the homework. And I remember this teacher saw me. We made direct eye contact. And he turned around and ran away from me. He fucking ran away from me. And I was trying to chase this man down the hallway until I realized this fucking dude is running away from me. That's the kind of experience I had in college. When I would get tutoring and it didn't really help, I would make appointments with my math teacher to get tutored and like she wouldn't show up. Or I'd get tutored and I'd just be like, I still don't understand it. And I would pretend like I understood it. I'm like, okay, yeah, thanks. I'm so much better now. Thank you so much for helping me. And then I remember one teacher, she was like, you really should come to me. This was my first year, my freshman year. She's like, you really should come to me. Remember, you're paying us to teach you. It's not the other way around. She's like, don't ever feel like we're providing a service to you and you're paying us. And I always thought that was very interesting that she put it that way, because a lot of times people and society in general do not treat institutionalized education like a customer service thing. It's like, you pay us. How dare you act like we're supposed to treat you nice and pay us a lot of money? And it's kind of like that. Also in college, in chemistry classes, I fucking hated classwork because I always felt that the person I was with was significantly more smarter than I was. And I felt like I was dragging them down. And then of course, like sometimes I would work slower, or I would work faster than someone else. And there's just like this tug and pull of, oh, well, you're bringing me down. No, you're bringing me down, all this kind of stuff. And like, it would just get like so tense because I wanted to do work my way and someone else wanted to do the work their way. So it really sucked when I was going to college, and I kept going and I kept going, and nothing was coming out of it. For 6 years straight, I'm not even joking, you guys, I flunked at least one class out of my 4 that I took for 6 years pretty much. I would try and take Maymasters and Mini-master, or any Mini-master, Maymester or Wintermaster, to try and get out of, especially math. Math is my worst class. To get out of pre-calculus, because I needed to go all the way up to calculus in my biology. And to this day, I couldn't test out of pre-calculus. I'd always get to the last module and I would flunk it. And, my Maymasters and Mini-masters were the same. I would try and do this accelerated learning to get out of pre-calculus, and I would just end up getting 50s. I'd waste like $800. I probably would have gotten more done karma-wise just throwing $800 at a homeless man. You know what I mean? Like on the freeway. Like, I think I could have spent my money a lot more smarter that way. And then I remember there was times too, and this might happen to you. I had a teacher that he said, oh, well, I don't use the textbooks to save you guys some money. I just do my exams based on my notes. So don't worry about the book. I won't quiz you from there. What does he do? Yeah, you guessed it. He gave us exams based on the textbook, which he told us not to buy. which was kind of confusing because we had, I'd say like 4 or 5 major exams that whole semester. He never gave us homework. It was just like the exams. That was your grade. First exam, I got a 50. Second exam, I was like 50 something. Third exam, 50 something. What the fuck? You told us not to get the textbook. Now I'm freaking out. It's too late to buy the textbook. They're all gone. I don't have the money for it anymore. So I'm just like, what the hell? And there would be some people in class that would literally take a nap and they looked like they were passing. I was like, this person must be in a fraternity or something and they must have like tests from the previous year, because how the fuck can you take a nap in this class and not read or whatever, unless, I don't know, and there's like things like that go on in college too. For fraternities or sororities or certain groups, you will have tests from the previous year and they just memorize it and they pass and they just fly through the course, while the rest of us are like, freaking the fuck out trying to get all the books, all the workbooks, do all the studying to get in to get a passing grade, and it just was never attainable for me. So I just kept wasting money and wasting money and wasting money. I would have asshole teachers. I had another teacher for it was like some I don't remember, some class board. It was like it was evolutionary class or something like that. Evolutionary theory. And he also was like, his thing was like, I don't believe in verbatim. If you answer a question verbatim, this is gonna sound wild. If you answer a question verbatim, that tells me that you're not understanding what you're learning. You're just repeating it like a robot. So I was like, oh yeah, this guy's really cool. Like that's how I learn. I kind of say things in my own way, but I understand it. So we get our first test back, and I remember I was sitting next to a girl, and he marked her answer wrong because she didn't use the word "and" in her sentence. Because verbatim, it was like, we evolved from gorillas, and this is just an example. I really don't remember what it was, but I remember it was the word "and," gorillas and primates, because da 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 da. She did not put the word "and" in there, and he marked her question wrong, while I answered verbatim with the word "and" in there, and I got it right. That's how it was all semester. So we're like, okay, dude, I fucking get what you're doing here. Okay. So the rest of the semester, everybody, finally it clicked. It was like, okay, well, he told us not verbatim, but he's getting really old. I don't think he knows what the fuck he's doing anymore. So we all started answering verbatim, so that my grades kind of improved, but I still ended up flunking that class. I think that was one of the last classes I took before I was just like calling it quits on college. So like, it was it was a lot of wasting money for me. I remember when I had first wanted to get out of high school, I was like, let me take a year off to try and figure out what I want to do with my life. And to even then, to put so much pressure on being 18 years old, you're a teenager. Like, I know in the eyes of the law, like you're an adult already, but you're still like, like fucking retarded. You know what I mean? Like you don't know what the world is like. You don't know what it's like paying bills. You don't know what it's like paying for your own groceries, or even considering that an expense. You know what I mean? Like there's just some things that go over your head. So like, to ask an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? That is such an unfair question, because people change careers many times during their life. I think it's a rarity for someone to choose what they want when they're 18, graduate at 21, 25 or whatever, whatever degree you're trying to get, or advanced degree, and then do it until retirement. Like that to me, that's crazy. I mean, you really have to know what you want to do. And I think for a lot of people, they don't know that. I didn't know that. I always wanted to be this or that or this or that. I mean, it had to do with a science degree. But when I found out like I didn't have the proper equipment upstairs to accomplish such a thing, I just kept going for 6 years, because I thought at some point, oh, I'm going to graduate, because that's what people do. You keep going to college and you eventually graduate. No, I just kept failing classes. I went for 6 years, and you guys, I only have 69 credits. And I think like maybe 9 of those credits are bullshit electives. One, I took a guitar class because I thought I could take it as an elective just to get an easy A to try and bump up my GPA. But my counselor told me wrong. So I wasted money on a guitar class when she was like, no, it has to be electives within your lesson plan. And then to me, I was like, well, I emailed you directly and I asked you, can I take this elective with my degree plan? And you said yes. So I wasted money on a beginner guitar class for nothing. That's the shit I had to deal with in college. I wasted a lot of money doing that. And then and then the longer I went, sometimes my degree plan would change. They would add like another class. Like when I first started out of high school, I didn't have to take no fucking anatomy. And then all of a sudden, 5, 6 years later, they're like, oh, you're missing an anatomy class. And I'm like, what? I was like, that was never part of my degree plan. I was like, well, it is now. And I'm like, are you shitting me? Like, it just pushed me further and further away from ever graduating. So yeah, I have 69 credits. I have a small balance at my university that I could probably pay off, but what the fuck for? Like, I'm never gonna go back to college. It was so heartbreaking too, because it's like you see people that they go to college and then they graduate, and it's like I just kept going and I just kept going and throwing money away and throwing money away. And everyone's like, well, that's really good, Sarah, you're going to school. But in the back of my mind, I was like, but I'm not accomplishing anything. Like, you don't understand. Like, I'm not getting nowhere. You know what I mean? It was like I was in a dead-end job, but I didn't have a dead-end job. I was a student. And then, and I would say it was bittersweet for me. I was lucky to have money, but unlucky on how I got money, because my dad died when I was really young. So for 9 years, I collected his death, Social Security or whatever. So my mom never spent it. She just, she put it away for me. So by the time I got out of high school, I had a lot of money. And sometimes I think back, and I really try not to do this because it makes me really upset that I just wasted money on college, But I mean, I think that money could have been put to better use, doing something else, like other than throwing it away at a university. And people always ask me now, and that's what I'm getting at here. It's with this long ass video. It's like, what do you do when you're like a grownish 30-year-old person? I feel like this grownish thing, and you're probably gonna be like, oh, you stupid millennial. But I mean, like, I never asked for handouts. I always wanted to be independent, and I still do. But it's like, what do you do? You're 30 in 10 years. I'll be 40. Like, some people are retiring by that age. It's like, what do we do with ourselves that we just don't know what to fucking do? Like, I'm lucky I'm in a position where I can be a stay-at-home mom. And like I said, I've come to terms that accepting that, because the way I was programmed as a child to go to college and do all this stuff by my highly successful career mother, it's like I feel like a failure. It's not glamorous. It's not impressive to be a stay-at-home mom. To me, I still feel like that, and I don't want to offend anybody, but that's just how I feel, even though I've come to accept that it is a good thing to be a stay-at-home mom, because I get to be the one to raise my kids and make sure that they're taken care of after school and everything. But it's just like, it's a catch-22, I'm in a fortunate state where my husband can support us and I work where I can. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I went to high school. I mean, I went to college for 6 years. I have nothing to show for it. My family's like, oh, hey, apply for this job. All you need is an associate's. And I'm like, because they know I went to school for so long. And I'm like, I don't have one. They're like, what do you mean you went to school for so long? I was like, I never got enough credits to get one. I just have my high school diploma and some college credits. Oh, hey, I can sew, by the way. What do I need that for in an office job? I don't. So it's kind of like, so I have all these funny little skills that I really cannot put to use in the real world, unless the real world is like working in film or some kind of creative industry, which is not really here where I live. I get to work in that industry off and on here and there and get paid for it here and there as well. But can't make a career out of it here. It's very hard. What do we do? I mean, are you a grownish 30-year-old person? I feel like this section of our lives, on those of us that feel this way, and I'm sure there's always been people like this since the dawn of time, But I mean, society always makes it seem like this is such a new phenomenon, you know what I mean? But like, what do we do? I mean, not too long ago, like 60, 100 years ago, there was no such thing as a teenager. That came about during baby boomers, like when teenagers didn't have to go work for the family to help support. They could finally enjoy being a young person. And that's when the term teenager came about, and that whole, you know, like what, 13 to 19 or 18-year span, where you could just be young and not have any responsibilities the way that your parents probably had 100 years ago. They got put to work really, really young because that's what you had to do to survive. And I feel like there's another thing coming up like that with us grownish 30-year-olds. It's like, you know, we work and we have these dead-end jobs that we fucking hate. We don't know what we want to do with our lives. We are not in a state where we could buy a house, or, you know, you could barely buy a car, but owning a home seems so unattainable, or having these wonderful vacations are unobtainable, you know what I mean? And again, you know, I don't want to speak out of place because I do own my own house, but that's only due to that my husband has such a really good job. I mean, my husband pays for this house. I only helped a little bit with the down payment. But I mean, but yeah, I mean, I don't mean to be so negative, but I did not have a good college experience. It really sucked, and it made me realize how not smart I thought I was. I'm not as clever as I thought I was. So that was really Debbie Downer. And then eventually, when my brother was old enough to go to college, my mom was like, "You go on ahead to trade school." Kind of like, I already learned what your sister could not be. You know what I mean? So he went to trade school and he graduated. And when he graduated, I was so happy because I was like, oh shit, at least one of us graduated and has a college degree. I'm still over here like, you know, oh, I owe you money, university. So yeah. So I mean, if you feel that same way, or if you don't, you know, leave a comment below. I'm sorry, it's just such a negative Nancy video, but I just feel this way right now about this time in our 30s if we don't have our shit together. I mean, it doesn't necessarily make us lazy people because most of us still have jobs, but it's like, what do we do? We don't know what to do. I don't know. It's so strange. It's so fucking strange. But anyways, thank you so much for listening. It's 27 minutes going on. All right. Have a good night. Bye.